everybody, this is Adam Gussow, first time coming to you in a while. Feels like forever in some ways. It's a hot day, it's 95 here on July 4th, 2024 in Oxford, Mississippi. Normally I'd be in my car, but at 95 degrees, I just don't think that would work. So I'm back home and filled with all sorts of thoughts. Today I want to do a lesson, a little conversation about how to play when you're not trying to show off, when you're trying to actually be incognito. I think I might call this something like harp incognito. Occasionally you find yourself in a public place and with a hunger to practice or play. I was just traveling back from Newark Airport a couple of days ago here to Mississippi and found myself in several different airports in sort of fairly big lounges, and I just sort of wanted to play a little bit. You know, we all have a bit of the show off in us, but I didn't really want to show off. I thought there were a couple of kids. I thought I could pull it out, maybe play for the kids. I kind of turned my back and I played really low and really quiet. And it reminded me that there are occasionally times in my past where I've done that, like on a train in Europe or on an airplane. In fact, I've heard stories that the great and powerful Howard Levy occasionally just sort of pulls a harp out on a plane. Can you imagine being like the guy behind him and hearing this incredible stuff come out? We are obsessives, we're harmonica players. Anyway, but I'm filled with, I want to do that, but I'm also thinking about why I haven't uploaded much. And I think part of what's going on is that I've been working on a book, which is going to be published next February. And I'll tell you much more about it when the time comes. It's at least half memoir. And some portion of the memoir is additional chapters of the Satan and Adam story, my story of playing on the streets of Harlem with Sterling McGee and playing in the jazz clubs before I met him. So I'll tell you more about that when we have a purchase link sometime this fall, maybe in October. I definitely want to tell you about that book. It's really important. I will give you the title. The title is Where We Are Now, Renewing the Dream of Beloved Community in a Troubled America. And of course, on July 4th, 2024, we are a troubled America. But what's on my mind right now, what's weighing on my spirit a little bit, I think is artificial intelligence, AI. Some of you may remember a very weird harmonica lesson that I did. It was called something like Very Modern Blues Harmonica Lesson, or Very Modern Blues Harmonica Lesson. I'll try to put a link in the video description. I don't know what I was trying to do. I was just wildly inspired to try something totally different. And, you know, usually I would say 95 to 98% of people like my videos. In that case, 80% liked, which is to say 20% just said, what the, WTF, what is this guy doing? But in a weird way, what I was doing was anticipating where AI has taken us, which is that it is chewing up and devouring every single thing that human beings, especially creative types, especially musicians, have done over the centuries, and artists, visual artists. It's chewing it up, it's digesting it, and it's doing its best to sort of put a lot of us out of business. Now, luckily, I'm not a full-time blues harmonica teacher, but if I were a full-time touring or full-time blues harmonica player, well, I'd be slightly less worried than some people are, because I think blues harmonica has something about it that makes it very hard for machines to do machine learning and to create believable stuff. But they're improving really rapidly. And so at some point in the future, this is why it's like, what do I want to keep sharing my best stuff so that it can be data mined and AI can eventually come to you? And it's doing Adam Gussow, right? It's doing Very Modern Blues Harmonica teacher. Well, that's sort of what I was trying to do. I was anticipating in a weird way, in a prophetic way that I didn't understand at the time. I was anticipating what happens when I sort of showed you in that lesson what creaky AI might do if it were trying to imitate a sort of out of control harmonica player, except what it is basically was I was trying to show, like, what's the residue of the human in a world dominated by machine learning, large language model, and AI stuff. Anyway, this all may seem very esoteric and you just want me to play, so I will play. So a few times in my life, I find myself in a position where I'm in essentially a public place and where harmonica practice doesn't make sense. I'm trying to think when this, I can give you a good example. My wife and I were in Italy a few weeks back, a 20th anniversary kind of thing. And I was in Florence, and I knew I had a gig when I got back, and I wanted to practice some. I wanted to kind of get ready for the gig. And I didn't want to do it in my hotel room, but I thought, where in public can I do it? I thought, well, there's somewhere I can go. I went to the Ponte Vecchio. I sort of went down by the river, because harmonica players and rivers, those are sometimes good places to play. Couldn't really find any place to play. Couldn't find any place to practice. There was a wonderful, huge park in Florence, but it was too far away for that particular day. And so I ended up getting back home to the hotel, the fourth floor walk up, and did not practice. So when I was in the airport the other day, I did play a little bit. So the first thing is, I'm using an A harp. If you find yourself in a place where you kind of want to noodle a little bit, and people are going to hear you, but you don't want to dominate. You just want to kind of be a pleasing part of the background. It's a strange position for a blues harmonica player to be in, right? We don't want to be a pleasing part of the background. We want to be the main event. But what if you actually just want to be a pleasing part of the background? So the first thing is get a lower harp. I could use a C. Most of you have a C. If you don't have an A, though, you need to get an A, because A is good for this sort of low-end thing. And then what I realized was that this sort of playing is really good practice for control, for controlled vibrato, for making something sound really sweet and low, and also for doing bends at a very low air pressure level. So one thing I found myself doing was just that basic tongue block maneuver. Now I usually don't tongue block to draw. Now that's just lip pursing. But I found myself at a low volume. I like that, right? That's the tongue. So there I'm putting the tongue on the piece of wood down below one and on the one hole, so that I've just got the two on the right corner of my mouth. Ta, 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 ta. And as I breathe in, really gently, da, I'm going ta, 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 ta. But I'm doing that when I go in. Da, 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 da. Or ta, di, da, di, da. Now, if you're not familiar with that sort of real, first of all, tongue blocking, if you don't do tongue blocking, you need to, because that's kind of cool. But it's great practice at that low volume. And it teaches you to change the shape of your mouth. Now, what did I do there? That's something Nat Riddles, my teacher, showed me many years ago. Wow. Isn't that cool? It's not a way I normally play, but man, it's one of the things that lets the tongue blockers say they got the lip pursers beat, or the pucker players beat. So let's take that riff apart. But again, low volume is the key here. Now, there's no way for me to, as verbally eloquent as I am, as articulate, as incisive and trenchant as my descriptive vocabulary is, there's no way for me to really say what I'm doing. It's sort of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. The more you try to describe, the more you show up as an observer, the more the thing tries to sort of fall apart in your hands. But what I can do is I can make the sounds close and intimate. And of course, there are different variations on the sound. And when you pull more air, you can do slightly different things. When you're going faster, you got to kind of slightly change the shape of things. Now, you're frustrated because you want me to break it down step by step. I'm good at that. In this case, what I'm trying to do is simply expose you to a sound perhaps you haven't ever heard. You think of harmonicas, right? Isn't that how most beginners, maybe you sound like that. That will not do. So there I'm going, I'm sliding my tongue off the 3. So I'm covering the first hole and a piece of wood with my tongue. And then I'm slipping across so that I come off the 3 and so I'm playing the 3 and the 2 is covered, and then I'm whipping down. So how does this sound if you're doing it real slow? Real low. If I'm playing really gently, I don't want to actually hit it super hard. I want to draw people in, right? I want them to go, come a little closer. Well, I think I hear some good blues harmonica off in that corner of the airport lounge. Of course, I can tongue block, I can bend that 3. And you may notice I don't usually hold the harp this way. You've seen me for many years holding it more like this as opposed to this, right? With my thumb, here my thumb's on the bottom. That's the standard grip, but I don't usually hold it like that. I put my thumb up on the side. All right, let's let that go. So that was one thing you could do. This is sort of little riffy thing. What else? Well, now there we go. So we're real bending on the 4. But remember, you're trying not to let a lot of sound out. You're trying to pull people in. I was playing at that volume or even less, right? Because I'm not trying to own the room. This is a key thing. Normally with harp players, you want to go in there and you want to own the room. You want to sort of stop conversation. You want people to go harmonica. So what I'm talking about is a sort of subtle blues harp. It's almost like if you were a meditator and sort of subtle breath patterns. People would talk about that. Subtle states of meditation. So that the sound sort of steals over somebody before they even know what's going on. So I'm going to bend the 4. I'm going to sort of hit it slightly bent. I'm releasing it, doing a little bit of vibrato. Now that one riff, I'm going to show you exactly what I did there. So I started on the 4. And then I hit the 5 draw with a little bend that I released. I'm hitting all the blues pitches very bluesily. So 5 draw with a little bend, release it, you get wham, and then go to the 4 draw, bend, to 4 blow, to the blue 3rd, the 3 draw on an A harp, slightly bent. Very tricky, I think, to get that at the right intensity, to get the right pitch at a very low intensity, because you don't want to bend it too far. You got to bend it a little. There's no bend. Good. So that's my riff. Then down to the 1 draw, 2 draw bend, whole step bend, to 3 draw, half step bend, blue 3rd. Now, for some of you, that, some you can hear and you can play. For others, you may say, oh, that's cool. I'm always moving linearly, so it wouldn't have occurred to me to go from the 2-draw bend to the 3-draw bend, the blue third, and then do the 2. You sort of would go, yeah. But I'm going, isn't that a great little, so we've gotten into something interesting, right? That little, where you're jumping from the bent 2 to the bent 3, then to the unbent 2. And of course, the bend has to be correct, and you need to be able to bend it at a low volume. Let me see if I can try that riff again, all right? And then we'll end this, but I think I've done what I needed to do for you. Oh, I like that. It's like this. Again, super quiet. Try it again. Do it again. Wow, okay. I think we're done for today. I've gone in a lot of different directions. One more thing. My next video will be telling you about the Sir Rod and the Blues Doctors tour that's upcoming July 11th through 22nd. Got a couple of weeks on the road. I'm really excited. And I will tell you about that next time. So look for me down the road. See you soon. Bye-bye.